This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Agun Erev Shabbos Rabbi. This Shabbos is the first week of Pirkei Avos. So we're going to dedicate this morning's shir to Perek Aleph of Pirkei Avos. Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz wrote a sefer Divrei Yonasan, which is a commentary to Midrashim Niflaim, very wondrous Midrashim, perplexing, enigmatic Midrashim. And Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz quotes a Medrash, which I don't know where this Medrash is. Some write it's a Medrash Pliya. It's not in any of the editions of Medrash Pliya that I looked at, and I looked at quite a number of them. The Medrash Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz quotes says like this: the Medrash, Sha'al Moshe HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Moshe Rabbeinu asked God, Al ma ha'olam oimed, what does the world stand on? Amar lei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe, Hashem said to Moshe, what do you mean? What kind of question is that? Tatshe ha'aretz DESHA, let the earth sprout with herbage. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, huh? Lo yada Moshe ma amar lei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem, not getting it, I don't quite get it, that the world stands on Tatshe ha'aretz DESHA. So Hashem says, Moshe, don't you know the Beis Hamikdash is going to be destroyed?
What's it all about?
Huh? That's the Medrash. The Medrash says, Moshe asked Hashem, what does the world stand on? Hashem said, Tadshe haaretz DESHA. So Moshe didn't know what Hashem was talking about. Hashem said, don't you know the Beis Hamikdash is going to be destroyed? Well, I found the Medrash Pliya, which maybe is remotely similar to the one that Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz is referring to. The Medrash says, Kishava Moshe Rabbeinu v'ra ha'pasuk tadshe haaretz bacha v'ra ha'chorban. When Moshe Rabbeinu saw the pasuk tadshe haaretz DESHA, he saw Churban Beis Hamikdash. Well, we have this pasuk tadshe haaretz DESHA, and we have no idea what is this referring to, what does this mean, what is the meaning of the pasuk, and what is its connection to what the world stands on. Well, let's take a look in Pirkei Avos on the things that the world stands on. Pirkei Avos, in the second Mishnah, we have the comments of Shimon HaTzadik. Shimon HaTzadik haya mishiyare Knesses HaGdoila. Shimon HaTzadik was one of the remnants of the Anshe Knesses HaGdoila. Anshe Knesses HaGdoila is a great body of sages consisting of Nevi'im. And hu hayomer, he would say the following: Al shloisha devarim ha'olam oimed. The world stands on three things: Al ha'Torah, ve'al ha'avoda, ve'al gemilas chasadim. On the study of Torah, on avoda, which is the avoda in the Beis Hamikdash, and on good deeds. We have another Mishnah at the end of the first parak in Pirkei Avos that gives a different list. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Rabban Shimon Gamliel, a later Tana, said, Al shloisha dvarim ha'olam oimed, al hadin, ve'al ha'emes, ve'al ha'shalom. Judgment, truth, and peace. Shenemar, emes, u'mishpat shalom, shiftu b'sha'arechem. Where is that pasuk? Sefer Zechariah. So, you don't have to be rocket scientists to realize that we have a stira. What does the world stand on? Does it stand on Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasadim? Or does it stand on Din, Emes, and Shalom? Make up your mind. The world stands on three things. So you'll say it's a Machlokes Tanoim. Is it a Machlokes Tanoim? Usually, if there would be a Machlokes Tanoim, then Rabbi, who codified the Mishnah, would say, Shimon HaTzadik Omer, Al shlosh dvarim ha'olam oimed, Al Torah v'avodah v'gemilas chasadim. He would have said, Divrei Shimon HaTzadik. Shimon Gamliel Omer, no, Al adin v'al shalom. Normally, that's how Rabbi writes and records Machlokes. And why would he not record it that way?
Well, one says Al shlosh dvarim olam omed, and one says Al shlosh dvarim Kayim.
Therefore what?
Different.
How's it different?
Kayim and Omed are different. Maybe it's one is...
Maybe or what? No, there are no maybes.
It has to be different. It has to be different. Otherwise, it would have said the same thing. So Omeid and Kayim have to...
Oimed means to stand, and Kayam means to exist.
Kaya means to go forth, going forth. But the basic principles are Omeid.
So Rabbeinu
You
Yoina,
can't have the world unless you have Omeid. Once you have Omeid, then you have Kiyumis.
Keep going.
Rabbeinu Yoina comes Rabbeinu Yoina and Pirkei Avos. Rabbeinu Yoina is one of the primary commentaries on Pirkei Avos, and he writes, Ratzaloymar, Shebeshvil Dvarim Elu Nivra Ha'olam. Oimed means that in the merit of these three things, the world was created. Kilamata, because at the end of the parak, it's not these. What does oimed mean? Now, normally oimed means the exact same thing as kayam. Oimed means what makes it stand. So Rabbeinu Yonah, no, it's not what it means. Nivra ha'olam b'shvilam. They are the will of Hashem. Shenivra ha'olam b'shvil briyosav. The world was created because of His creatures. Sha'asidin liyos ratzain lefanav, which are destined to do His will. Al yidei asiyas ela advarim, by doing these things. Ve'elu hashloisha, and these three things, heim amud gadol shabeshvilam yagiu l'chal hadvarim sha'amru chazal shaha'olam oimed b'shvilam. That for these three things, they are a great pillar, that because of them you will reach the three things that the world stands for. So what's Rabbeinu Yonah saying? It seems that Rabbeinu Yonah is being mechalek between Oimed and Kayam. That Oimed, Rabbeinu Yonah defines as Nivra B'Shvilam. That why did Hashem create the world? For what purpose did Hashem create the world? Torah, Avodah, and Gmas Chasadim. And what keeps the world sustained? Din, Emes, and Shalom. Now, this commentary of Rabbeinu Yonah is so seminal and so important that the Torah in the beginning of Choshen Mishpat, uncharacteristically, the Torah is a halacha sefer. He starts off Choshen Mishpat with the stira between these two Mishnayos, and he quotes Rabbeinu Yonah's answer in the first sif, or the first siman of Choshen Mishpat. The Torah writes,
Choshen Mishpat is the money matter?
Rav Shimon Gamliel Omer, Al Shloisha Dvarim Ha'olam Kayam, Al Hadin, Ve'al Emes, Ve'al Shalom. Perush Rabbeinu Yonah, Ein Perusha Shebeshvil Shloisha Dvarim Elam Nivra Ha'olam, Sharei B'tchilas HaPerak Omer, Al Shloisha Dvarim Ha'olam Oimed, Ve'ein Amelu Shezar Chakan, El Matchila Omer Shebeshvil Shloisha Dvarim Nivra Ha'olam, Ve'ein Torah Avad Gnos Chasadim. Torah! How do we know Hashem created the world for Torah? D'chsiv Hashem kanani reishis darkai. Amra Torah ani nivreisu l'fnei kol Avram. I was created first. V'avuri nivrei kol Avram, and everything was created because of me. And the world was created for avodah v'chein b'shal avodah shabach hakadosh baruch hu b'Yisrael. Mikol ha'umais Hashem selected us from all the nations of Vachar b'beis hamikdash. Mikol ha'mekayimos uv'shviloi nivra kol olam v'chein gemilos chasadim. Shehi midas chesed hagoyer emes liyos l'ratzon leHashem. And here says the Torah, paraphrasing Rabbeinu Yonah, the Kana Amar Ha'olam Kayim Perish Achar Shenivra Miskayim Al Yedei Elu. And how's that? Through dayanim that are done, ben ish l'chaveroi, the world stands. Without din, it would be kol adolim gvar. Emes sheker in loy raglayim. Emes is the yisoid of maimed l'cha advarim, and shalom also. Without shalom, then ish l'srei chayim b'loy. And this is the Torah segue into Dinei Choshen Mishpat. He says this is what Chazal mean. Kol hadon din emes la'amitoi nasa shutuf la'kadosh baruch hu b'masa bereishis. How does a dayan become a partner with God in creation? The answer is because din and emes is one of the pillars of the world. So a dayan that judges correctly, he becomes a partner with God in creation. The Medrash Shmuel, one of the most important commentaries on Pirkei Avos, is Medrash Shmuel, Rav Shmuel di Uzido, Talmud al-Arizal. He brings a raya to the parish of Rabbeinu Yonah from the ancient Gersais that are actually goyres in the first Mishnah. Shimon HaTzadik Haya Mishari Knesses Agdoila. He would say, Al Shloisha Dvarim Ha'olam Nivra. So the big kasha is Olam and Kaya means the same thing. So Rabbeinu Yonah is saying a doichek. Yeah, but if you look in the ancient text, it actually says the word nivra, and that would make Rabbeinu Yona's commentary quite clear. He brings down V'yesh sadlo zeh mima shematza Rabbi Yehuda Lirma. Rabbi Yehuda Lirma found Gersa b'Sefer Ashkenazim. See, the Ashkenazim had an ancient text in the Mishnah Shimon Tzadik, Ha'olam Nivra. But there's a big problem with Rabbeinu Yona's pshat. There's a kasha atzuma on Rabbeinu Yona's pshat, and that is what requires more merit, to create the world, or once the world's already here, just to keep it going. What requires more of a merit? To create the world or to keep it going?
Creation.
Everybody knows that to get something started, it's much harder than once it started to keep it going. So the question is, if to create the world, Torah and Avodah and Gmos Chasadim was enough of a merit, then Kol Shekain, it should be enough of a merit to keep it going. Why would you need Din, Emes, and Shalom? In other words, if Torah, Avodah, and Gmos Chasadim is such a great merit, the world could even be created for it, then why isn't it enough to be Mekayim the world? That's the kasha that the Chassid Yavitz asks. The Rabbi Yosef Yavitz, the Chassid Yavitz, also one of the classic commentaries on Pirkei Avos. I had a Rabbi, one of my Rosh Yeshiva Rabbi, Binyamin Luban. He was very close with Rabbi Zaitchik, the authors of Sparks of Musar. And Rabbi Zaitchik said that a Sefer, which is a skula for Yerushalayim, are the Svarim of the Chassid Yavitz. Okay? So he brings down Rabbeinu Yonah. Look at number 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th line. Rabbeinu Yonah Zal Chalak Beineim. Rabbeinu Yonah makes a difference between Oymed and Kayam. Upiresh. Ki Oymed Ratzal Emer Shebeshvilam Nivra Ha'elam. Koloymar Al Shebriyosav Asidim Liyosav Ratzal Fanav Al Yidei Asiyas Elu Advarim. Oymed means Nivra. Uperush Kayam Acher Shenivra, maintain. Frek the Chassid Yavitz v'tzrichan Perush Ki ha'olam Nivra b'avor Ela Hanizgar B'rosh HaPerak. The world was created in the merit of Torah, Avodah, and Gmos Chasadim. Bohem Daila Kiyumai. Why is that not enough to keep it going? If it's enough of a merit to create the world, why is it not enough of a merit to keep it going? Ki mashu siba le'savos davar ma. If something is enough of a cause to create something, kol sheken sheyeh siba sheyeh skayim, isn't it enough of a cause to keep it going? That's the question. You hear the question? It's a pella of a question. It's a tema. What does Rabbeinu Yonah mean? Rabbeinu Yonah says, no, it's not a stira. The first 3 ingredients are the merit to create the world. The last 3 ingredients are to keep the world going. Well, if the ingredients are strong enough to create the world, isn't it surely enough to keep the world going? So I want to point out that this kasha on Rabbeinu Yonah is not only the kasha of the Chassid Yavitz, but I found the Beis Yosef himself. We said the Torah quotes Rabbeinu Yonah. The Beis Yosef on the Torah asks on Rabbeinu Yonah. Look at this. He says, "V'im toimer." Look at number 10. B'haloi b'shloisha shenivra ha'olam yaspik lekiyumai. The ingredients that the world is created for shouldn't that be enough to keep it going? Shemishu siba lahavei stavar kol shekain sheikaimenu.
Obviously not. I mean, from here it's mashma.
No, you can't answer a question. Obviously not. That's the question.
So I would say
you have to answer the question.
I would say that it's more difficult to keep the world going than it is to create. Why? Because once the human was introduced to the world, there were all kinds of problems that would make it difficult for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to say the world is worth to be created. So the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu La'atzmo created the world, that was HaKadosh Baruch Hu's decision, simple enough. But the introduction of humans and maybe even animals, that was difficult. So maybe it's more difficult to keep it going than to the HaKadosh Baruch Hu did the creation. Very simple for them to do it.
So then I have a question.
He also created the problems.
So
he created
no.
That's why he had to bring him in.
So then
That's why he had to bring
So then the first Mishnah should have said, well, then if that's the case, and it's harder to maintain the world than to create the world, then and Din Sham and Emes are enough to keep the world going, then they certainly should have been enough to create the world. And then ask the question the other way.
No, because that din only applies to humans. It doesn't apply to material things in the world.
What do you mean?
The sun, the moon, the nature.
So then Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasadim don't apply to them either.
They also have din.
In other words, you could ask the question either way. Whichever one is harder to do, whatever is able to do the harder one, why can't it do the easier one?
You have to do it in sequence. Maybe they talk about.
So you say they're the same, and you can only do one.
Aren't they the two different modes of behavior? One a maintenance
Torah and
the other is a creation of Yesh B'Yayin, things like that.
What does the Torah say?
The Torah says
Shalom.
It says Ki Sheshes
It's all the same.
Right?
Yeah.
You only created for 6 days.
What's going on now?
At the end of the 6 days, goodbye.
Good answer.
And so what are we in now?
But the engine of Shabbos comes along and renews creation for the next week.
Okay.
That's how it works. 6 days.
So now we need Din, Shalom, and Emes to keep it going.
Aren't they the same?
So they're equal, and it's three ingredients could do one, and the other three ingredients do the other.
Torah, Gemilas Chasadim. What is it?
So you want to say it's not a stira.
MS, Din, and Shalom.
Din is
Well, MS is Torah. Torah MS.
Emes is Torah, and Din is
Avodah.
what's Din got to do with Avodah?
Shalom is Gemilas Chasadim.
Okay, Shalom is Gemilas Chasadim. I hear.
Torah is MS.
Din I hear is
Torah's din. Torah's din. What was come from the...
No, but Torah MS. We always say MS.
okay. Rabbi says the answer is that Avad is much harder to create the world than to keep the world going. That's why you need a Torah, Avad, and Gemilas Chasadim. So why can't they keep the world going? In case you don't know, we don't have Avodah anymore. Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, and
Shlomo folks were saying it was happening.
our tefillas.
That's the best we have.
That's
the
and
best we have.
Torah. What does it say in Eicha? Malkah v'sarav agoyim ain't Torah. Torah we don't have. Avodah we don't have. A little Gemilas Chasadim the Goyin has says, but you're missing the three. You're right. Torah and Gemilas Chasadim are the biggest zechusim, and they could even create the world. The problem is we don't have them anymore. So we need to come on to. We need maintenance. Maintenance already is a little bit easier. For that, you could use Din, Shalom, and Emes. Says the Chassid Yavitz. Look at back at number 9, and the Beis Yosef also says this. Al v'inyan kachu. Shashem Yisbarach bara olam hayal gimel dvarim shazachar Shimon HaTzadik. V'hu alav shalom diber kefi zmanoi. Shimon HaTzadik lived when Mishiyari Anshe Kazak Doila. Antik Nazak Doila lived in the beginning of the second Beis Hamikdash. The second Beis Hamikdash. Torah. Avodah Gemilas Chasadim. So v'zeh hatan Rishim Gamliel was the grandson of Ram Gamliel who was after the Churban. Even though we can't fulfill the three things that used to be, so now the world should be destroyed. The answer is, this is the difference between Shmira Lehisavos. That's the difference between maintenance and creation. Very simple. You put hot water from the urn into your cup. Now your styrofoam cup would never be able to make that water hot. But it could keep it hot. It's much easier to maintain than to create. You need a heating agent to create heat. You don't need a heating agent to maintain heat. You need a strong fire to make very hot water. You don't need a strong fire to keep the water at that temperature. So too, you need so too here. Creating the world, maintaining the world is just like your cup of coffee. How's that? If all Hashem had when He needed to create the world is Din, Shalom, and Emes, He could never have created the world.
How do you say that?
Because I'm just reading the Chassid Yavit. No,
we're saying what Hashem could do. And
no. Hashem is telling us on Har Sinai, we have a tradition that these three things were needed for Hashem to create the world. Moshe, that's why Pirkei Avos begins. Moshe kibel Torah miSinai. It's not the Tanakh making up what they think. We have a tradition. The world was created in the merit for the time that the Beis Hamikdash stood, because that's when we brought nachas to Hashem. So what does the world stand on when the Beis Hamikdash is not around? It's on Torah, Avodah, and Gmilos Chasadim. So the explanation that the Chassid Yavitz gives to explain Rabbeinu Yoina is that it's true that in order to create a world you need tremendous merit. And Torah and Avodah and Gmilos Chasadim are the tremendous merits. However, those merits did not last forever because Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. And what keeps the world going after Beis Hamikdash is destroyed? Din, Shalom, and Emes. Now there are other ways of learning Rabbeinu Yoina, which I'll tell you briefly. I'll start with the Beis Yosef himself, who wants to say, in his second answer, the first answer he says is exactly like the Chassid Yavitz.
Are they contemporaries?
I believe that the Chassid Yavitz, who came first? The Beis Yosef or the Chassid Yavitz? The Chassid Yavitz was one of the Gerushei Sfarad. So he's the end of the 15th century, beginning of the 16th century. The Beis Yosef started off, if I'm not mistaken, in Turkey. Around the same time as Arizal, I would say a little bit after. So when I said that the Kasha of the Yavitz is in the Beis Yosef, so maybe they both came up with it independently. Who said it first? Possibly even the Chassid Yavitz. The Beis Yosef suggests like this. He wants to say further. He said, the Chassid Yavitz says we don't have Avodah. But the Beis Yosef says we don't even have Torah. We can't even do Chesed today because of Allah Galas. Then he says, that really, he says a little bit further, that the three things mentioned in Rav Shimon Gamliel's Mishnah are actually what restores the three things mentioned in Shimon HaTzadik's Mishnah. And that is, Din is a Siba that the Torah should be kept. Because with Dayanim ensure that the Torah is maintained. Emes ensures Avodah. Because through the Avodah, the Beis Yosef says, the Shechina dwells among us, and Hashem's Hashkach is apparent. And when we are maintain the Emes, which is a Chaisamay of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we recognize Him and we daven to Him b'makam avodah. And Shalom is Keneged Gemilas Chasadim. So through Gemilas Chasadim, there will be Shalom. Or, says the Beis Yosef, that through these three things, they're all regarding Din. Emes and Shalom, they're all upholding Din. Okay, the Bach has a different take over here. And the take of the Bach, which is very interesting, is the Bach says, different than the Chassid Yavitz. Not the Pshat, that the first three things, where there's chus in the merit, the world was created, but now that we don't have Avodah anymore, we don't have Torah anymore, we need lesser merits to keep the world going. No, says the Bach, there's no stira to begin with. The first Mishnah is listing the three zechusim for which the world was created. The second Mishnah is not talking about zechusim, it's talking about the practical running of society. What does society stand on? Not on what merit does the existence of the world stand on. That's Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasadim. The world stands on the merit of Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasadim. But we want to know, how does society run smoothly? How do people stop at stoplights? Why do people pay taxes? Why does society work? Why is there not genevas? The answer is, you want to know what society stands on? Din, the fear of repercussion. Emes, truth, and Shalom. It's not a stira. The first Mishnah is listing the zechusim that uphold the world. The second Mishnah is explaining how the world operates on a practical level. That's how the Bach reads and understands the stira. Comes the Levush, Look at number 14. The Levush, Rav Mordechai Yafa, says in his opening comment to Shulchan Aruch, a davar pele, ach davar echad yiro li lechadesh, al derech tzachos hadrash. Even though I'm a halachist, I would like to teach a novel insight b'derech hadrush, shev shaloimer shezehu ma sheramza ha'torah gam kein b'tchilas brias ha'olam ha'tachtoin. What does the world stand on, this lowly world? As Amar Shimon ben Gamliel, al shlosh dvarim ha'olam kayam, al adin ve'al hashalom al emes. Well, wouldn't you think the Rebbe Shalom would tell us about this in the beginning of creation? He did. Miyad, we know that what did the world stand on when the Beis Hamikdash stood? Torah, avodah, gemilas chasadim. But after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, and the 4 galiyos are merumas in the pasuk, v'ha'aretz ha'sasayu, v'avayu, v'choshech, al pnei sahaim. Those are the 4 galiyos. So Rebbe Shalom says, now that the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, I need to teach you what the world stands on after the Churban. So you know what Hashem says? Mi'achar gos ha'aretz shoysa ruya lishav ha'bali chaim ha'adam, Amar Yisbarach, Tadshe ha'aretz DESHA Esav Mazri Azar Levinai. Says the Levush, V'hai DESHA meyutaru Shahaya loy loymar Tadshe ha'aretz Asavim Mazri Azar Levineim. The kivan shekas of Levineim, if the pasuk is Levineim, Lohayat Tzarach Lichtav from this DESHA, which Rashi struggles to define. What does the word DESHA mean? Shapir al DESHA Esav. Rashi says, what does DESHA mean? Esav. Really? So if DESHA means Esav, so why didn't just say Esav? Loi DESHA lashon Esav k'may shebeperusha. Says the Levush, the word DESHA is Rashi Tevos. Din, Shalom, and Emes. Tadshe haaretz DESHA. Everyone's bothered by the kasha. You're reading the Chumash and you read about the 4 galiyos, va'aretz ha'sasayu, v'avayu, v'choshech abnei sahaim, and there's no Beis Hamikdash, so there's no avodah, there's no Torah, maybe there's even no gemilas chasadim. So what does the world stand on? So Hashem says, I'll tell you what it stands on. You're worried about Mishnah Beis and Pirkei Avos? Don't worry, there'll be a Mishnah Yurches of Tadshe haaretz DESHA, Din, Shalom, and Emes. Hu ha'esav hamazriya lanu zera ha'shalom. This is the herb that will sprout for us the seed of truth, of peace. Hagefen yitain Pirkei, v'aretz yitain yivula. And that's why on day 3, how many times does it say Kitayv on day 3?
3.
Right? All the other days it says it once. And on day 3 it says it twice. Why? Why does it say Vayar Lakim Kitayv? It already said Kitayv. Yichad l'zashen is Kitayv b'fnei atzmai loymar ki hu ha'tayv ha'gomer sh'olam kaim alav. Day 3 gets an extra Kitayv because that's the day that Hashem taught the world what the world will stand on, even when Beis Hamikdash will be destroyed. Says the Tzvi Elimelech Midinov in the Igor Dekala, Tadshe ha'aretz DESHA, Amar b'loshen hazeh, v'loy Amar toitzi ha'aretz Esav ukeyotzei. Venira, the same thing as Levush Deramas al Gimel Dvarim Ha'olam Kaim al Adin ve'al Emes ve'al Shalom. Hinei Gimel Elu Nitzrachim. These 3 things are needed al Yedei Tzmichas Ha'aretz. Now the question is, why is God being merames to the 3 things the world stands on in the pasuk on the 3rd day of creation? Because the 3rd day of creation talks about food, parnasa, which is the main cause of all strife and discord and what could cause kilkul ha'olam. So on the day that Hashem creates parnasa, ayidei tzmichas ha'aretz sha'adam tzarich parnasa mi'advarim hatzomchim min ha'aretz v'goyzel echad es chaveroi u'min hatzarich l'dayin lahatzel oshuk. The dayan has to save the oppressed. V'ayidei zem eshavim mariva v'ein anoshim v'doivim sheker u'min hatzarich l'shalim v'emes. Therefore, right away, when things begin to sprout, Tadshe ha'aretz DESHA Din Shalom Emes. Comes Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz, and he says, now we understand the Medrash plea. Moshe Rabbeinu asked Hashem, what does the world stand on? Moshe expected Hashem to teach him the 2nd Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, which says, Al shlosh dvarim ha'olam oimed. And Hashem inexplicably says, Tadshe haaretz DESHA. Moshe understood exactly what he meant. Moshe understood DESHA means din, shalom, and emes. Moshe said, I don't know what you mean. What was his kasha? His kasha was, but it's a stira to the second Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. The second Mishnah says, Torah avoiding Gmas Chasan. What are you telling me? DESHA, din, shalom, and emes. That's not what it says in the second Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Hashem said, Moshe, don't you know the Beis HaMikdash is going to be destroyed? It's going to be destroyed. We can't do Torah avoiding Gmas Chasadim. We have to come on to din, shalom, and emes. Says Rabbi Yonasan Eibish, it's Venira. Disa v'Gemara, ha'olam oimen al Torah avoiding Gmas Chasadim. Parach. Hatanan ala din ala emes shalom oshani koy ben chor Beis HaMikdash avoida haya ala Torah v'avoida Gmas Chasadim kan la'achar chor Beis HaMikdash ala din emes shalom. Asi Shabbos sheish v'kadosh baruch Moshe tachir desha Rosh Tevos din shalom emes. V'lo yoda Moshe my kamerle ki haya kashale kushas agamara. And the answer is Hashem said Beis HaMikdash will be destroyed, and now the world stands on Tadshe Haaretz Desha. What's Desha? Din shalom emes. Rabbi say, Agun Shabbos.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.